Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to Someone's PC. There hasn't been that much new information since last time when we talked about Lysandre's trump card being banned in all the regionals and such. So we'll probably be putting out videos more frequently after Hong Kong and Denmark nationals happen this weekend, after Canadian nationals happens, and obviously right before US nationals. But for now, people have just been messaging us what we've been testing because nobody really knows what the metagame is because there still hasn't been any tournaments in like a month in this weird trump card list format. So we're just gonna briefly go over 5 or 6 standard deck lists for what we believe should be in any testing circle. So basically, if you have a deck and you're thinking about taking it to nationals, if you can't beat most of these decks, then you probably should reconsider it or make some adjustments before heading into US nationals. And obviously, like this testing circle will change based on the results of Canada, Denmark, Hong Kong, etc. But this is just our like thoughts going into it.
All right. So first up, and I think we all agree that the deck to beat right now is Night March. I was actually bashing it during our group interview and all that. I didn't think it was gonna be this good, but after testing with Dylan, and then he kept kicking my ass over and over again, it's still really good. Like even if you have like DCE management, but they're able to pull off pretty annoying late game combos with Revive. So even when you feel like you're using bats to strike down like back row Night Marchers or Lysandre Night Marchers, they're gonna be able to get it back and just keep such like an advantage on you in prize exchange. So the list we're using is the one off of Sixprizes. I think Ryan Sablehouse just wrote this week. Yeah. And it's pretty much like a standard speed Night March list with 2 Shaymins added and a Revive now. That way you can just get back Night Marches like we said before, and Mew Ex is going to be relevant the entire game. I mean, it's Night March, not much to talk about. Just Trainer's Mail, Acro Bite, go crazy, and then like bop your opponent for 20. Do you have anything else? No?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why Night March is so strong is because during cities, people used to be able to just use Quaking Punch and then trump card all your Night Marchers back in. Now, nobody can really do that. You can't just splash Seismitoad in something and say trump card Quaking Punch and then reset the entire game. Night March just battle compressor 3 times on the first turn and hits for 180 for the rest of the game. So there's not a lot of stuff that interacts with a Pokemon that knocks out all your Pokemon in one hit from the first turn. So the rest of the decks that we're going to talk about kind of have a concept that can deal with the 1 energy, knock you out in 1 hit idea that Night March has. So either like running like hit and run decks, Aegislash to block double colorless energy, or using Crobats to kind of gain an advantage and prey on Joltik's 30 hit points.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where we've stayed stagnant at, that you need some sort of bat line or something to keep up with the prize exchange going on with Night March in order to stay relevant in our testing circle at all. Because we had some like a couple stupid ideas that weren't able to keep up. Me personally, I tried Flygon, but it wasn't fast enough. By the time I get set up, I'm already down 3 prizes and there's no hope in that game. The second list we have is M Rayquaza. This one's actually Squeaky's and WorldRenownedHeretic's list. We just pulled it straight off of YouTube, and I'm pretty sure Squeaky played against Dylan in Georgia Regionals with the same list, minus trump card, of course, and then added in whatever else. Right? Was it?
Yeah, pretty much this. I think this was like almost the same thing within a couple cards.
Okay.
So I tested it a few games myself. It was like pretty solid. Like some of the cards look weird, such as like the fan club of being able to battle compressor via seeker for fan club, or if you like swap out a Shaymin for a Jirachi, you can like search for the fan club turn 1 and get like Rayquaza Shaymin. It like gets like a pretty consistent turn 2 Emerald break, but the Bronzor gives you lots of options against decks that play Enhanced Hammer, so you don't run out of energy. And then you have the hot Aegislash tech against Night March, because they're very reliant on double colorless energy.
Yeah, I played a few games with it on TCG1 for a bit when their servers were actually working, and I liked it a lot. I don't know, maybe it's just me not liking metal. I like the whole Bronzor engine. I feel like if you prize 1 or 2 and you can't get to the other one because you're too busy trying to ultra ball for Shaymin or your Mega Rayquaza, that it's not going to get there. But
yeah, it definitely doesn't work smoothly every time.
It's definitely getting a lot of hype from a bunch of top name players, and it's definitely something to consider keeping in your playtesting circle. I really like it a lot. I think it's the best variant of Rayquaza of colorless Rayquaza we still have left, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree. So
that's pretty good.
I wouldn't play anything but this if you wanted to play White Rayquaza right now.
Yeah. Third list is Donphan, which is dear to our hearts, considering what we did with it in Philly regionals. I don't think Donphan has a shot. We keep it in our testing circle because we want to believe that the cute little elephant's gonna stay relevant, but I don't know, man. It's just Night March and everything. They're just so fast, and even when you're trying to trade Robo subs or keep up with any kind of bat line, they can tank you for a turn, take out one of your at most you have like 2 Donphan on board at all times, unless you're running super hot, then good for you. But that doesn't happen all the time. And if they Lysandre one, and then you're like, oh, I get to trade you next turn with like my Donphan, which happens to have 2 strong energies in a band for whatever reason. Let's give you an amazing hand, and then they just pull up another VS Seeker and do the exact same thing to you. The following turn, you're gonna fall behind. You have Halucha, which is irrelevant, Sigalith, which isn't that good, versus Toad Bats or Landy Bats or Raichu Bats or Night March. So I don't know. I don't think it's too good, but it's in the testing circle regardless to try and see if it's gonna make a splash.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to make Donphan work with the walls that we have available. Like, there's nothing that really stops Night March other than Robo Sub, but like you said, if they keep hitting Lysandres, you just kind of have to cross your fingers and hope that they don't draw Lysandre and VS Seeker. Yeah. And I don't know, the walls that Donphan has right now don't seem very good. It's like Sigilyph is good if they have all the X's and don't have an answer, but usually...
And they're playing a bad deck by doing so it's like...
Yeah,
it's like, okay, then you're going to be...
They have Silent Lab or Cobalion EX like in Squeaky's list, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Wobbuffet's meh against Crobats, which is the bane of this deck.
Yeah, it's only good when you start with it against some of the Shaymin decks. So I feel like maybe if somebody played around with the walls that Donphan has available to it right now, they can maybe make it work. But I don't know, kind of like the standard Donphan list that we've been seeing. It might have like a slight edge versus Night March, but not that much else.
Yeah, I wanted to try out a Raichu variant of it, like I played at Philly. But after just thinking about all the Landy Bats we're gonna run into, like, you might as well accept the auto loss because you have Crobats beating the Donphan, and then Landers just one-shotting any kind of Pikachus or Raichus you try to set up early on. And if you're setting those up, then, how are you getting your Fanfi and Donphan available without just playing, like, 2 or 3 Ultra Ball, which is not as efficient. Next list we have is Toad Bats.
Yeah.
Which is super basic, so...
Yeah, I mean, we tried testing the other versions of Seismitoad, like Seismitoad, Shaymin, Dragalge, or playing stuff like Seismitoad, Garbodor, but all the kind of hammer spam and the other strategies that Seismitoad used to do don't really work anymore. You kind of need something else to run alongside it, like Crobat, to deal with the Donphans and the Night March decks. Like, Seismitoad doesn't just auto-win Night March anymore because you don't have Trump card. You need something else to give you a little bit of an advantage. And the Crobats are help against Donphan and a lot of the fighting decks, so we feel like this is the best way to run it. A lot of people have been trying to play Milotic, like, I know Ryan and Kyle Sablehouse tried that a lot on their Sable stream, but that concept doesn't really work that well. Just getting back one item every turn doesn't really have a big impact on the game. Like, getting back one Crushing Hammer for evolving into a Stage 1 is not very good, not a really good trade-off, and Feebas only has 30 hit points, and it just dies a lot when they evolve into Crobat, snipe it with Landorus, etc. So, I think this is the only real way to play Seismitoad right now, but it's pretty viable with Crobat.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think? Yeah.
I think it's like pretty much you said, the only way to play Toad.
Yeah.
You can play Garbodor, but you're not going to be dealing anywhere near enough damage to take a full Sixprizes in our current meta. Like, before we talked about that, and you're like, oh, Toad was a thing before Trump came out, and so forth. I don't think it's going to be as strong now with the speed of Metal Rayquaza, Night March. Even Raichu Bats can bop Seismitoad EX because it's really hard for them to trap they're like these little 9EXs active and try to maintain control when they could just like attach a DCE for the turn and take a 1-hit KO on Seismitoad off of bad damage from that turn. So it's not even...
Yeah, I think the best way to compete with something like Raichu is just to try and go Muscle Band, Laser, Bat, and knock out their Raichu. Like, instead of playing something like Enhanced Stamina to take off their double colorless, it's best to just try and knock out the Raichus and hope that they can't produce a bunch of them under the item lock. Otherwise, they just outtrade you if they are able to set up an infinite army of Raichus.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like Toadbats. Do you have anything else left for Toadbats?
No, yeah. I think we're good on Toadbats, so we can just go into Landy Bats.
Alright. This Landy Bat list is the one we're using. I think we're including, like, the only thing special I would really mention here is the 1 Lucario, 1 Miltank instead of 2 Lucarios, because Toad's going to see a drop in play. And, you know, we added in the Repeat Ball, and then the Chorus idea is a lot better, the one that Mahone made, instead of, like, typical Karina build, which everyone was going for in the beginning before he started popping off. We talked about Lucario, Miltank, and you were talking about how it was almost an exact list.
Yeah, it was almost an exact list. So the only real difference was the 1 Miltank that wasn't really standard. I know Andrew Mahone started to play it towards the end, and what it lets you do is it gives you a counter to Safeguard, and it gives you a way to trade with your opponent's non-EXs. Because if they're using non-EX Pokemon, you're not able to use Holuchas, then your only attackers are Landorus EX and Lucario EX, so it gives you a 1 prize attacker to throw at them, gives you a counter to Safeguard, as I said before, and it fits naturally into the deck because you're almost always going to have a Crobat in play by turn 3 or turn 4. So it's not hard to fulfill the requirement for powerful friends.
Yeah. And you would jam a Suicune with the band, right? For 100? Yeah, that's juicy.
Yeah, you just jam Sigilyph and Suicune, so.
Alright. And then the final list is what's currently getting a lot of hype amongst a bunch of top players, and that's Raichu Bats, or any kind of Raichu variant. I think people are really trying to explore what Raichu and Shaymin and Skyfield can offer to the current meta.
I think people realize how good Raichu was in the Lysandre trump card format, and now what people are trying to do is pair it with something else, because you needed something outside of Raichu and double colorless energy, because you only have access to 4 Raichu and 4 double colorless without being able to cycle through your deck again. Yeah. So I think Crobat is the strongest variant, but you have to run some type of basic energy and some other attacker. Like in this case, we chose Leafeon, which is you can trade with Joltik with Pumpkaboo. So it's like you just attach an energy to an Eevee. You can trade with the Night Marchers. And it's good against Seismitoad variants as well, and stuff like Groudon. But it's possible that there's a better attacker to play there, like Yveltal. Like I know Ross played Yveltal when he was first seed at regionals, so it just kind of depends how the metagame shapes up.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it when we were testing with it. And I played against a few variants at the LC we went to, with Carter Copeland using his Raichu Leafeon, but there's no bats in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't like that variant at all.
Do you think that any other
without bat, it doesn't do anything. You're just like, oh, okay, you have a grass energy, and then he's like, oh, energy crush for 40, and then I just smack Leafeon. He brings up Raichu to trade for like 140, and then it hit that, and then now he's down a DCE, a Raichu line and everything. And I don't even know if he played Sacred Ash or not. I didn't see it, but I think this list certainly needs Sacred Ash or any kind of decks like this to.
Yeah, especially without Lysandre's trump card. That's been a pattern in like a lot of our Crobat lists. We've just been throwing Sacred Ash at anything. Because if you have to discard a bunch of Golbats or Crobats early game, you kind of get screwed otherwise. I mean, Carter's list was focused a lot like on a heavier Leafeon line. Like this time, Leafeon is just more of attack. Like the focus, I think, should be Raichu and Crobat. And then you just need to splash something else to kind of get you the rest of the game.
Yeah. Well, before you play like the heavy Leafeon line to counteract all the Groudon that was going on, and the Toad. And now that you have bats, you can just poke Groudon little by little, and then the Focus Sash won't even be relevant by the time it becomes active. So,
do you think that there's any other Raichu variant besides Raichu Crobat that kind of deserves to be tested or talked about, or you think that this is just the strongest version?
I mean, for me and everyone I've spoken to, it's just this is blatantly the strongest version.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can have like other ideas, I guess. I mean, didn't this just win a Nationals this weekend? I saw
with trump card. Yeah, with trump card. Yeah, people have been like winning with Raichu Crobat all over the place with trump card. So I think that people are going to be trying to break this deck post trump card and make it still viable. Like if you can find another attacker that can kind of be like the 5th and 6th prize card once you run out of Raichus and double colorlesses, then this deck will transition very easily into the new format.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
I like when we were playing with it, and it's pretty annoying to test against. I like this night march matchup once we added in the bat line because it
Yeah,
became a lot less problematic.
yeah. I don't. In the old format, you had trump cards, so Sacred Ash wasn't really needed. I think, like in Carter's build, that it was still the last league challenge with Lysandre's trump card, but in the new format now, if you have to discard any Raichu's early game or Crobat's early game, you just kind of get screwed. So I think that Sacred Ash is kind of like a necessary safety net. And in all our lists that we're testing right now, until we kind of see otherwise, we kind of added Sacred Ash into all the Crobat decks in case you have to discard Crobats and Golbats early, and in the Rayquaza deck because sometimes you have to discard Bronzong and Mega Rayquaza early.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, I feel like it's like a necessary safety net right now. Otherwise, if you get an opening hand with Sycamore and 2 evolutions and no Sacred Ash, then you're kind of screwed towards the end of the game. I mean, do you think there's any other way to get around that? Like, you could also just play a thicker Crobat line instead of playing the Sacred Ash, but that's more space.
No, Sacred Ash just makes a lot more sense. The only thing I would ever want to play like a thicker line of would be the Zubats and the Golbats. But
yeah,
everything else seems. And I keep dropping the recording. I think it's still recording for us anyway, so we're good.
Okay.
Do you have anything else left to say? Or
no, I think that's about it. I mean, these decks. I mean, like, without really knowing what the metagame's going to be like, this is our best guess at it. Just kind of Night March and decks that have a good chance against Night March. So until something crazy happens at one of the foreign nationals, I feel like these are just solid decks to have in your testing circle.
Yeah, I agree. Along with that, we're going to start doing a deck. How would you say?
Like deck garage type
yeah,
thing?
like I guess it's kind of like a deck garage. Basically, feel free to send us your lists for the upcoming format if you're playing in nationals, or I mean, even if you're just a casual player and just want us to evaluate some of your lists. We prefer to have just competitive lists because, I mean, I know people want to sit there and try to have fun with the stuff they're making, but we're just kind of intending on making it tournament ready and a deck that can compete and potentially win a tournament. So, feel free to send any of your guys' deck lists, along with an explanation of why you're playing a particular card, the meta you're predicting, and how you expect your deck to beat said meta. So what we're trying to do is get the same people who are watching these videos and trying to improve as players. We're trying to get inside their mindset of why they're building the decks the way that they do. And are you just, like, I hate to use the term net decking, but yeah, I mean, I don't really care about net decking. It's if you're just copying someone's list online, you're not understanding why they're playing that card in that particular given situation or in that particular tournament. Like, people not knowing when Ross played Kecleon, and when it was like for Mewtwo or any kind of good trading, with a basic poke for just the DCE. And I think sometimes he can put a Grass Energy and then copy like Energy Crush off of like a mirror match with a Leafeon. It's very little things like that. They didn't understand why he was playing it, at least from what I read on Verbank. And so we want to be able to see how you're thinking when you're building your decks and how you're intending to use your list to beat the meta you should be expecting.
Yeah, basically, like, the more information that you give us and the more of your thought process you give us, the more help and insight we can give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just our opinion. If you don't like it, or if you feel like we're being too harsh, feel free to tell us to go screw off, or like we don't really care. But we're here to help our viewers and then our friends too, because our friends hit us up all the time because they're too lazy to do their own testing. Or they'll be in our testing group and literally not do a single thing and just sit there the entire time and copy our list. Dean. So, Squad, Dean. God. Yeah, Phil. We're gonna post the
email
address inside the description below, as well as all these lists and the sources of the lists. So please go to Squeaky's channel, Team Fish Knuckles, as well as WorldRenownedHeretics, and they provide really good lists and gameplay and some good insight, as well as players' interviews, and just they are definitely improving the community, and we're trying to help contribute to that. So until next time, guys, Have a good one.
See you guys.